Let's go to the great town of Dubbo out on the Western Plains of New South Wales and catch up with the Nationals leader, David Littleproud. Good to catch up with you, David. There's some bad economic news around today on the broader economy and on energy. I want to get your reaction first up to what Matt Canavan flushed out of the Australian Energy Market Operator in this committee hearing today. Have a listen.
But you're saying you cannot guarantee that the current government policy settings which you model will deliver lower power prices?
I can't guarantee that, no.
David Littleproud, the market operator can't guarantee lower prices under the government's model. What does this tell us?
Well, Anthony Albanese lied to us. He made a promise that he'd modelled that he could give you a $275 reduction in your energy bill if you went down this all renewables approach that he's taken us down. He made that promise nearly 100 times before the election, that you get $275 off your electricity bill. And now the cat's out of the bag. When AEMO run the ruler over it, they can't do that, and you're not experiencing that. And this just goes to show whether it was tax, that he wouldn't touch tax, whether you wouldn't touch superannuation. You can't trust Anthony Albanese. And unfortunately, he's not prepared, along with Chris Bowen, to wake up and understand that he has to face up to the structural challenges of our energy grid and that you can't put all your energy eggs in one basket. No country of the industrial scale the size of Australia is running down an all renewables approach. It is pure insanity, and you are paying the bill for it now, and you are going to pay a higher bill today from the evidence given by AEMO.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and this is something I spend a lot of time talking about, and I've been focused on it for a decade or more. And it's just even worse than that, though, I think, what we heard today, because Daniel Westerman, the head of AEMO, the head of the National Energy Market Operator, says that he doesn't even model, he doesn't even look at what the end cost to consumers will be. They don't even work out what's going to cost consumers more or less. Yet they're the body the government keeps referring to when it decides whether or not to have a renewables only approach, whether or not to have more gas, or whether or not to look at nuclear. The government's ruled all that out without having anybody look at the end cost to consumer.
Yeah, and this is the frightening thing, is the modelling that they had done said that we'll get a reduction, and then the government agencies that they do get to run the ruler over these things aren't doing the legwork they should be, and then they try and inject CSIRO into it. But actually getting them to run the ruler over with only part of the information, one in terms of the period of which these plants can run, 80 to 100 year nuclear power plant, a wind or solar turbine only lasts for about 10 to 15 years, and you have to redo it again. It doesn't take into account, because they didn't know, and they don't know yet, what our total grid mix will be, of what capacity that nuclear plant will be going at. In fact, CSIRO were measuring that at a capacity somewhere between 60 and 80%. So of course it was going to be dear in what it was doing, and it hasn't factored in the thousands of kilometres of transmission lines you're going to need to do all renewables. And
it is scandalous.
We've done all the low-hanging fruit, new existing transmission lines. And just think, if they build all these new transmission lines and then they don't replace those wind turbines and solar panels in 10, 15 year time, you're going to have transmission lines going to nowhere.
Yeah, it is scandalous. And what we know today, there's been no real independent analysis of the options here. It's just Chris Bowen and Anthony Albanese going off their ideology or their gut feel. So you can either back them or back the CEOs of Google and Amazon and Microsoft and Oracle. I think those big companies in the US might have a better idea of what the economics are here. Just briefly, though, on the broader economy, this warning from the International Monetary Fund that Australia's inflation rate is going to remain at above 3% through next year, that it's the worst of all the developed economies in the world effectively. That means interest rates are going to stay high.
Yeah, they're going to stay higher for longer because of Anthony Albanese. He can't blame Vlad Putin for this. This is all homemade. It's been homegrown here in Canberra by Anthony Albanese and Jim Chalmers. They've been spending your monies and they haven't been facing up to the structural challenges that we just talked about. In fact, they've spent $6.5 billion of your money to paper over the cracks and to give you a subsidy and a rebate on your electricity bill, rather than actually addressing the real core issue, which is supply, and getting supply into the energy grid quicker, which can do with gas, but actually addressing the fundamentals in the long term with nuclear. this is what they haven't done, and that's why it's costing you more. They've spent a lot of your money, and you're going to pay higher interest rates for longer, and they've let immigration get out of control. And this is where you can solve the nation's problems with not spending all your money, but just using some common sense, getting back to basics. And that's what Peter Dutton and I'll do, get back to basics, a sensible energy policy in the short and long term, and then a sensible migration policy that'll give you some hope that you might own a home one day.
Thanks for joining us, David. I appreciate it. Nationals leader David Littleproud there, coming to us live from Dubbo. You can see the pictures of the zebras over his shoulder. They don't have wild zebras in Dubbo, but they have a wonderful zoo, the Western Plains Zoo. If you ever get the chance to take the kids out there on a road trip, you must do it. Now, after the break...